Hello everyone and welcome to the Green Man channel. Hope you're doing good and well. So it's time for another big list video here on the channel. And some of you might remember that I did an album ranking for the collective discographies of Nightwish, Epica and Within Temptation earlier this year. Well, I'm doing a similar thing once again here, but this time I'm tackling a more modern era of the symphonic metal genre, a newer age of symphonic metal bands, if you will. And I'm going to be ranking the albums of 7 band discographies here from my least favourite to my favourite once again. And first of all, before I embark on this ranking, let me confirm the bands that are in contention for this album ranking. So we've got Ad Infinitum, Beyond the Black, Everdawn, Elvellon, Eternal Idol, Empress and their one album, and last but by no means least, the albums of Eleine as well. So just a couple more quick things to say before I embark on this pretty long list of 21 albums. This is very much a subjective list. It's very much my own list. It's likely to be different from your own, but do drop your album rankings in the comments, or maybe just what your favourite albums are from this list, or the albums you like, the songs you like. Do let me know in the comments, and I look forward to reading those. And lastly, if you're new to my channel, do drop a like and a sub. It really supports the channel and encourages me to do more videos like this. But without any more time wasting, let me start with this list with my least favourite album coming in at number 21. This is going to be Ad Infinitum's Abyss. Now, I still do enjoy a handful of songs on this album. I still think Melissa Bonney is a great vocalist and really performs these songs well. But for me, this album doesn't have the substance that the other 3 records from Ad Infinitum have. For me, it's really the kind of first misfire. It was released just last year, and it felt maybe like the album was a little bit rushed or something. But yeah, I really still enjoy a couple of tracks on here, like Outer Space and Parasite, for example. But this one, an album has to come in at the bottom, and I love Ad Infinitum, but this one unfortunately comes in at number 21. Coming in next at number 20, we've got Beyond the Black and their record Horizons, which is coming in low here for similar reasons that Abyss did. I just feel that the songs on here, you know, they're pretty samey, and you can tell, and Beyond the Black once again, having a bit of a change in direction like Ad Infinitum had, going for, you know, more of a rock sound than the sort of symphonic metal sound that they had in earlier years. And they remind me a bit of Paramore on this record, actually. And like I say, I don't really dislike this album, but it just doesn't hit me the same as their other records. I personally really enjoy tracks like Wounded Healer, Some Kind of Monster. That's not the Metallica St. Anger track, by the way. And I love Out of the Ashes as well on this one. But yeah, this one, Beyond the Black Horizons, comes in at number 20. Next up at number 19, we've got the first album from Eleine on this list. And this was their self-titled debut album. And, you know, first of all, it seems like this is a pretty short album, coming in at just half an hour in length. And I feel like the band are just basically kind of establishing maybe what works best for them here. I still think the songs in and of themselves are quite impressive. And, you know, as a first album, you know, it's pretty good. But for me, it doesn't really stand against the rest of their records quite as well. And, you know, I just prefer the other, I guess, the albums that are higher up on this list. So Elaine's self-titled comes in at number 19. Next up at number 18, I've got another Ad Infinitum album. This is their second album, Chapter 2, Legacy. And I will say, I think this is actually, you know, a well put together album, really well produced. It's certainly quite a big step up from Abyss, I think, for me, this one. And, you know, it was a good album, but I don't think this one quite has, for me, the quality of writing that the first album had, Chapter 1, Monarchy, but nor does it have the hooks that an album like Downfall has. That was Chapter 3, their third release. So for me, this one, it's just not one I go back to much, and it's why it's come in quite low here at number 18. Next up at number 17, I've got the first album from this band, from Eternal Idol, with Renaissance. This was their second album released in 2020. And I want to stress, I do really enjoy this band's outputs as well, and the performances on here, once again, are really good. This is a pretty much, you know, kind of straight up symphonic power metal record. It doesn't do anything too complicated, just kind of delivers a lot of those kind of, you know, melodic kind of power metal hooks. But I really enjoy it. I love the guitar work from Nick Savio on this album, and actually on their other albums he's really good as well. But yeah, for me, this one isn't quite as strong, I don't think, or I haven't enjoyed as much as their other 2 albums, put simply. So number 17 is Eternal Idol and Renaissance. Coming in next at number 16, we've got Beyond the Black's debut album, Songs of Love and Death. And I actually do enjoy this album. It's very snappy, very immediate, very catchy like lots of their albums, and you know, great performances on here once again. And this one has a little bit more of a kind of epic sound, you know, that symphonic sound is coming through a bit more, which I personally really enjoy and slightly prefer. You know, there's some really kind of fast, fun, you know, really some really, as I say, is very immediate songs on here. So yeah, nothing too out of the box necessarily, but sometimes you just want to enjoy something that's quick and easy to enjoy. And yeah, once again, I think this debut album from Beyond the Black does that. Songs of Love and Death coming in at number 16. Next up at number 15, we've got Beyond the Black's third album, Heart of the Hurricane, one that I actually personally really enjoy, and I'd say at this point all these albums I can easily pick out and just listen to and really love. And Heart of the Hurricane, you know, it's a little bit long, I think, for what it is, and there are some really great songs on here, don't get me wrong, but there are also some songs that I just prefer to skip. And it's, for me, therefore, a little bit of a mixed bag, but I do have a lot of fun with this album and the songs that I enjoy. So I really love like Hysteria, the opening track. I really love Through the Mirror. And also Fairy Tale of Doom, I think, is a really well-written song that's slightly later and deeper into the album, with a catchy chorus and also a good pre-chorus. And, you know, it's just well done, that track, and really enjoy Fairy Tale of Doom. So that's Beyond the Black's Heart of the Hurricane coming in at number 15. Next up at number 14, I've got Eleine's second studio album, Until the End. You know, I really enjoy Eleine's sound, actually. They've got a very heavy sound. It's pretty aggressive in comparison to lots of the other bands on this list. It's heavy, kind of a little bit reminiscent of a sound that bands like Epica or Septic Flesh or Flesh God Apocalypse would use, and also similar in the way that they incorporate sometimes more complex symphonic or orchestral arrangements within their songs, and sort of make them that bit more epic and bombastic. And I do like the way that you know, all the songs are done on this album, but they just don't quite stick out in my memory as much as the other two albums that are higher on this list. So that is why Elaine's Until the End comes in here at number 14. But I do enjoy tracks on here like Story Untold, Sanity, Whisper My Child, for example. Next up at number 13, we've got the first of two albums from this band. This is Elvellon, and this is their release, which was called Ascending in Synergy. I had to think of the album name for a second. Sorry, there are a lot of albums to get through here. Ascending in Synergy. And I think this is, you know, this is a great album. And all the albums from here are like 8 out of 10s. For me, they're really strong albums. And the songwriting's good here. Love the singing of Nelly Messerschmidt. I think that's how you say her name. And, you know, there's a real cohesion with both of their records that I think they've done really well with how they've decided to structure the songs and put them together one after the other on this album. And I love their use of their symphonic elements in particular. And yeah, it's a good, well-rounded record, but for me, I do just slightly prefer the other one. And they do remind me quite a lot of the early era of Nightwish. So if you like early Nightwish records, I think you'll probably enjoy Elvellon, a really promising band to look out for in the future if you're a symphonic metal fan. Next up on my list, after number 13, at number 12, we've got Eternal Idol and their debut album, The Unrevealed Secret, which of course featured the former singer of Rhapsody of Fire, Fabio Lione. And I like this album. Again, I think it suffers a little bit with what Renaissance suffers from, being a little bit samey maybe, but, you know, some great vocal performances here, great instrumental performances. And, you know, sometimes I don't necessarily need anything that's very complicated. I just kind of enjoy a straight up symphonic power metal record, and that's what pretty much this is. And, you know, I'm not going to complain too much about that, but for me, just doesn't quite beat the other 11 albums that are higher up on this list. But I love tracks like Is the Answer Far From God, and A Song from the Wind is a great song, actually. I think that's the closing track on this album, and that's freaking awesome as well. Next up at number 11, we've got another Eleine album, their most recent release, We Shall Remain, which is epic, you know, really aggressive again, very bombastic, great vocals from Madeline. And yeah, superb stuff on here like Blood in Their Eyes, Suffering, War des Atlas, you know, huge sounds. Pretty hooky, this album as well, and I think rather like the next album in my list, You know, Eleine know how to make their songs both pretty impacting and quite memorable, and I do think they mix up their guitar riffage very well with really heavy, quite groovy, laden riffage throughout their records as well. So yeah, I enjoy this album quite a bit. We Shall Remain comes in at number 11, so pretty high there. Now we get to the top 10. The albums that I would say, you know, are all really, really excellent. And so let's commence this top 10. And at number 10, we've got Beyond the Black self-titled album, which for me is their most well-rounded album. Yes, it still does what Beyond the Black tend to do, sticks pretty much to their formula, but does so in a really effective way. And I think over time, you know, the first one I did my album review for this album, there was quite a mixed reaction, but you know, over time I've come to enjoy this album more, and I appreciate the performances on here and its general kind of flow from start to finish. And as I say, Jennifer Habin is a fantastic singer. It would be great to get to interview her on the channel, because I think, you know, she's a really great singer. And yeah, there's some really strong tracks on here as well, like Free Me. Wide Awake is one of the most beautiful ballads, certainly I think I've heard from Beyond the Black. And Not in Our Name is a fun track towards the end of this record as well. So yeah, I think this is a strong album from Beyond the Black. Their most well-rounded, their most complete sounding, coming in at number 10. Next up at number 9, we've got the first of 2 albums on this list from Everdawn, who I think have come out of the gates with some really strong material since, I believe, Alina Gavrilenko, she joined them. They were previously, I think, under the moniker Midnight Eternal, but then Alina Gavrilenko joined them as singer, as well as Mike Pond as bassist, if I'm right. And, you know, I think almost from the word go, this band must have had some kind of a chemistry or synergy, because the songs are really great. I think the songwriting is pretty strong here. The tracks are quite memorable. The guitar work is awesome. The riffs are great. The keyboard work is also something which I think is a feature of Everdawn that I personally enjoy. And yeah, I got to interview Alina Gavrilenko, of course, on Symphonic Sundays when talking about their next album that's yet to appear on this list, Venera. And yeah, I'll be mentioning that shortly. But coming at number 9 is Cleopatra. If I didn't say that already, that's Cleopatra. That's the debut album from Everdawn, coming in at number 9. At number 8, we've got my most top placed Eleine album on this list. This is Dancing in Hell. And I think this is a tremendous album, actually. I do believe it was Sai in my live stream who mentioned this album, and I had to check it out. And I thought that this was a really, really strong record. You know, delivering on the sort of aggressive elements of the band really well. You know, great groove, and once again, just generally a very strong album. So that's why Elaine's Dancing in Hell, it comes in at number 8. I do think this is my favourite of their 4 records. And I personally love songs like Crawl from the Ashes, As I Breathe, and Die from Within as 3 of my favourites from this album. Now, next up at number 7 is a surprisingly high placement. And I say surprisingly high because I reviewed this album very recently. I gave it a fairly modest score. I say modest, still quite high score of a 7.5 out of 10. But I didn't expect this to come up this high on this list. But even in just the last kind of week, I have listened to this album quite a lot, which I guess is impressive given how many albums you know, I've been listening to in preparation for this list. But I've really enjoyed it. Like, it's growing on me even more now. And yes, it has an element of that cheese that you get cheese with kind of loads of symphonic metal. It's just part and parcel of what it is, and part and parcel of the fun here. But the vocal performance on this album, the vocal performances here are absolutely tremendous. Like, they're really, really strong. And I love the vocals. I think it's Letitia Merlot and Gabrielle Gozzi who are doing the sort of dual thing here, working in tandem. You know, one of them sings one passage and the next sings the next passage, all they sing in harmony. And just so many of the vocal moments on this album are so good that, you know, it's even lifted up how I view this album as a whole. And I still enjoy, you know, things like Nick Savio's guitar work as well. But I think this is a great album, really has grown on me. And I love tracks like The Enemy Is Me, The Idol, The Great Illusion. It's great. Sometimes it's just the fun factor or your enjoyment levels that wins out. And this is a classic example of that with Eternal Idols, Behind a Vision, coming in here at number 7. Next up at number 6, We've got another choice, which is along the same sorts of lines as why I chose Eternal Idol at number 7 and why that Behind a Vision album came up as high as it did. Ad Infinitum's Chapter 3 Downfall. And I remember when I reviewed this and JC Rockameta reviewed this, I think we both thought it was, very catchy, really fun album. And again, it's one of those albums that I've revisited lots and lots. There's something about the album that keeps pulling me back, and I think it's the hooks. I think it's Melissa Bonney's vocals. Adrian Tessenvitz, is that his name? I don't know how you say it, but his guitar work is excellent on this record as well. It's just an immediate, fun, memorable album with lots and lots of highs on it. So that is why Ad Infinitum Chapter 3 Downfall comes in here as high as number 6. And when you got cracking songs on here like Architect of Paradise and Eternal Rains, it's easy to see why this one has come up so high on my list. Now we're in the top 5. Coming in at number 5 is Everdawn's second album, Venera. And of course, I did a complete interview with the singer Eleine Gavrilenko for this album. That's I appreciate, I may be subject to accusations of bias because I interviewed the singer, but I think that this album is genuinely a great album with a lot of versatility on it, first of all. And it's still pretty memorable and immediate despite them teasing a few progressive elements here and there. I love Eleina's operatic vocals. I think she's a great singer with a lot of range. And actually, she uses a slightly lower register, I think, for this album than she did on Cleopatra. But it just works really, really well. Love the tie-in of the celestial themes that we discussed in her interview too. So yeah, that's why Venera is one of my favourites. Comes in nice and high here at number 5. Next up at number 4, we've got my top rated Beyond the Black album, Lost in Forever. And I just think that out of all their albums, this has the best in terms of the music on offer, the instrumental moments. I love generally the sort of peaks and valleys of this record. It's got some slower songs, some more folk-infused songs, some big, more bombastic symphonic style tracks. And overall, I just think it comes together really well. And I don't notice the time much in this record, even though there are quite a few songs on here, I think, if I remember rightly as well. You've got tracks like Shine and Shade, which even, I think, are slightly reminiscent of an ABBA style of song. You've got songs like Dies Irae, which is an unrelenting, totally straight up banger of a power metal type song. You've got songs like Halo in the Dark, which is a really memorable, kind of more rocky, slightly symphonic number as well. You've got really great songs here, which is why Beyond the Black's Lost in Forever comes in nice and high here at number 4. Now to the top 3, and we've got Ad Infinitum's. In fact, all the top 3 of these albums are debut albums. So number 3, we've got Ad Infinitum's debut, Chapter 1, Monarchy. What a great album, perhaps just a fraction long. But all the songs on here, the writing is fantastic. Melissa Bonney's vocals are fantastic. And lots of the songs here are also, I think, fantastic. And for a debut album, what a way to come out of the gates with an album as strong as this, almost as though maybe Ad Infinitum peaked slightly soon. I'd love them to go back to this kind of style of record, to be honest. But yeah, really strong stuff. My favourite songs, The Infected Monarchy, Fire and Ice, and Live Before You Die. That's why Ad Infinitum's debut album is as high as number 3 for all those aforementioned reasons. Really strong, really great songwriting and performances here. Number 2 is the debut album from Elvellon. They've only got 2 albums, and one of those albums is as high as number 2. It's the runner-up on this list. And this is really kind of like, reminds me a little bit of the sound of Nightwish albums like Oceanborn and Wishmaster. But it's more polished, I'd say, production-wise, with the benefit of more modern production. Sounds really beautiful, really well, kind of nicely laid out record. And I really adore so many songs on here. I couldn't place this any lower than somewhere in my top 3, I think. It was just instant love when I first listened to this record. I love Silence from the Deep, the title track. Shorter Eon is amazing. And even the album artwork is maybe reminiscent of those early Nightwish albums as well, and reminds me a bit of some of those early Nightwish album artworks. But yeah, absolutely tremendous album. If I've said the word tremendous quite a few times in this album ranking, apologies for that. I'll try not to be too much more repetitive. Alright, and we get to the end of this list at last with my number 1 album from all of these bands' discographies. And, This band only have one album, but it is, to me, a masterpiece. That is Empress and Fateweaver from 2022, and a very recent album as well. So yeah, I mean, I love this album. I like some of the storytelling elements in some of the songs. It's very progressive, so perhaps no surprise someone that has a pretty big taste of prog would enjoy this kind of progressive symphonic metal approach that Empress employ here. Love the guitar work of Vlad Kavin and Joseph Muir, and of course the vocals of Barbara Blackthorne, I think, is something pretty special on this record too, and a lot of her epic vocal moments are, for me, lots of the standout moments on the record in tracks like Black Arcana and Monarch, with lyrics that, you know, not only does that song musically blow away, but the lyrics blow me away as well. And I talked to Barbara about that track in an interview I did with her last year. So yes, interviewing her was a privilege, and getting to know more about this fantastic record in that interview too. So yeah, that's the end of this album ranking. It was a pretty long list, but I got through it. And yeah, let me know, as I say, which of these albums do you like the most? Maybe which ones you like the least. Otherwise, until next time, hope you enjoyed this gigantic album ranking. Until next time, bye for now.